Namaste. And today I want to talk about the secret to why parents treat their children differently. I apologize for the lighting. Normally I have good lighting, um, but again, remember this is an occult channel. This is a spiritual channel. This is an astrological channel. By occult, I mean though hidden things, secret things. So it's really simple. And for those of you who are parents, and even for those of you who are children, if you really think back, or even just think back to looking, maybe you even have friends or people that you've been in their presence, and they're like, why do you treat this one over here like this, and then this one over here gets away with that same behavior, right? So the reason for this is clearly astrology. And if you really want, you could even label it as something else. You could label it as the law of attraction, because that's the fact. And again, I'm not going to prove it here. There's no proof. I mean, I probably should have came up with an illustration, but go and test it yourself. Go and look up a bunch of charts of different people or yourself, and again, you have to look at the whole entire natal chart, and you have to understand astrology deeply to even understand what you might be overlooking. Okay, you might be overlooking conjunctions, planets near each other. You may have no knowledge of aspects. So a planet's here, and then there's a planet in this house, or this house, or this house, right? You have to know your stuff in order to be able to fully interpret it. You can't just. I mean, you can. When you start your studies, you start looking up sun, moon, ascendant. Okay, you start looking at the basics, and you start to formulate these things over time. But you either need a real astrologer, or you need to dig deep into it, or you will overlook it. You will miss it, especially if you are a real true skeptic, and you had your approach. You're coming to the table with what do they call that? Um, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, meaning you're coming looking too much for you're coming to prove it wrong, and you're really not being honest with yourself about the results you're looking at. Again, I'm saying this is a scientific approach, okay? And I recommend you test it fully, okay? Vedic astrology, sidereal astrology, not Western. Western astrology is 23 degrees off, or whatever it is degrees off. There's no point in looking up and saying the moon is here and the sun is here when they're not really there. They were over here. And you have to know your time of birth, because the deeper you dig into astrology, you start getting into the signs, you start getting into the houses. Okay, so if you have an accurate time of birth, okay, then you're going to be able to dig deeper, and the deeper you go, the more accuracy you will find. I promise you. But you have to know the actual time of birth. Okay, so that's just how it is. So, but the reason why parents treat their children differently, okay, and this is the same reason why we're kind of reverse engineering something here. Why is it that I can, I'm not an expert astrologer yet, but why is it that I can, at this point in time, grab someone's sun and moon sign, look that up, and tell them not only about themselves, but also about their mother and father? You think about it, it makes sense. It makes sense that can happen. I mean, it makes sense that that's the result that does happen. It's a real thing. Real astrologers can do this. So that would have to mean that somehow the planets are affecting one, either where or who you're born to. So that comes from a kind of an incarnation perspective. Or two, that somehow you can set aside a reincarnation for a second. Okay, you don't have to believe in that, but you could just look at it as, somehow the planets infuse us with something, maybe affects our DNA somehow, and somehow that attracts people to treat us a certain way. Okay, and that's the case. I know this because I have certain placements that have caused people to treat me in certain ways. that I don't like. And everyone has this. Everyone, and this can turn out to be a positive character traits. So this is not all negative, negative, negative. A lot of times it takes negative treatment and pain to get you in later in life to come out with a positive quality. See how that works? Does that make sense? Okay. Often that's related to Saturn. Okay, but anyways, so whether it's positive or negative treatment or the results are, forget positive and negative. Let's just look at things as they are instead of trying to categorize everything as good versus bad or good versus evil or you know what I'm saying? You can't just have this bipolar approach to categorizing everything, right? You need a holistic view. That's it though. I mean, I can talk a little bit longer about this, but that's it. And I urge, if I'm not preaching to the choir here with you, okay, if you're, wherever you're at on the whole astrology thing, test it out. I dare you. Sidereal astrology, not Western. Okay? You need to look up, you need to get a reading by a real astrologer, or if you want to do the digging yourself, if you have the time and inclination, you need to make sure you stick to Vedic and sidereal astrology. And the fact of the matter is most astrologers are Western, or at least the ones that you're going to pull up initially in your research. Especially if you're here in America, you're gonna be pulling up Western astrologers, and you might say to yourself, why is that the case? Because we've all been deceived, people. We've all been deceived, and that is kind of stupid. I agree. See, people who are skeptics will look at that and say, well, you don't agree with that, but you both think you're right. It's even more reason for them to be like, that doesn't make sense. You guys are all just they're a skeptic, an intelligent skeptic will accuse someone like me, of having confirmation bias. And that's fine. And I get that. I see where they're coming from because I dug into Western astrology, but it didn't make sense to me. See, I have a bunch of plants grouped up together all in one sign. So for me, it was like these descriptions of who I'm supposed to be or who I was were like, it's like, because I have them all here, but then in Western astrology, they were over here, right? And as soon as I made the switch from Western to sidereal, I was like, boom, that's me. Boom. I looked up all my placements. That's it. And the more I dug down into the nakshatras, into the padas, deeper and deeper, being more and more specific, looking at the conjunctions and everything, it was all accurate. Okay, so again, Western astrology is bullshit. I'm just telling you, it wasn't bullshit 2,000 years ago. That's the difference, is that Vedic astrology takes into consideration precessional slippage, which is a real thing. You can look up. This is astronomy. I'm not making this up. Okay, which in other words means that if you were to look at the horizon and see the stars, look at either the sunset or sunrise or at the same time every day. Right, you would notice there would be a teeny, it's like a 1 inch per, I forgot what it was. It's like 1 inch per 1,000 years or something like that. I don't even know if that was it, but a little bit, very tiny bit over time. And so it's been 2,000 years since these Western dates were fixed in. So everyone's just going by a dating system and saying, oh, well, if you're between here and there, your sun is, here. It's not like that anymore. You have to actually look at where stuff actually is. And you have to actually make a new calculation, which sidereal astrology does. Okay, that's just the difference. Western astrology is fixed and stagnant. Sidereal, Eastern or Vedic astrology actually changes with where the placements actually are. So forget Western. Forget it. Okay. And with that said, that's it. That's the real law of attraction. I made a video about this before, but this just led me to this. Like, this is something you can grasp, that's palatable for everybody, something that you've probably experienced. Why would you treat two children differently, or three, whatever? Because you have an instinct. You're being drawn to do that through their light, through their energy, through their spirit, and yours, right? It's a dynamic, right? It's just natural. I mean, obviously you don't want to do it too much, um, but it's part of the divine plan for them, or part of whatever they attract, part of their script for life, that they be treated a certain way, right? And again, a lot of this isn't necessarily negative. I mean, it will be negative for a lot of it's negative for the short term, because they're going to have an insecurity, and it could be a positive thing too. It can be positive. You may feel drawn to encourage one child over another. You just have a sense that that child needs that encouragement in this area, especially a mother's instinct. Okay, nothing you read in a book, no expert told you this. Now, of course, you may attract that's my cat. Sorry. You may attract the information, right? But and that's the other thing you may notice when you're a more spiritual person. You're not eating meat, or if you go from factory food to like grass-fed meat. If you start improving your diet, you start noticing information starts coming to you automatically, right? You start noticing. I'm just speaking to you as if you're parents. You may notice someone say something, and you start to realize that there was something that was trying to come to you through someone else. I had that happen to me daily, almost daily, or especially when I need it. Like when I need a warning. Like I need there's something about the universe that brings me the right information. Okay, so that type of stuff does happen, and that type of intuition is out there. But I'm warning you that you gotta clean up your diet, people. You gotta clean up your diet. You gotta become more conscious. I know I'm going way off on a tangent. I realize that, but why not, right? I'm gonna repeat that thousands of times in these videos. If you don't clean up, if for every dollar you spend with these bad companies that are messing up the food system, okay, every dollar you spend ends up going in their pockets, some of it obviously, but you're also funding political campaigns. You're funding the purchasing of science. These people are purchasing science. They own science. We can't put objective articles out there anymore. They own and fund everything that goes out there and they control it. So it's not just, number one, you should just do it for yourself and for your children and for your own health. But if you can't do it for yourself, think about how much damage you're doing other people like me who want to eat clean food and healthy food. You are funding these people who are putting all sorts of bad stuff into the air, into the water, into the food, and they are truly poisoning us. And it's just a fact. This is not an extreme. This is the middle. See, this thing is, this stuff will sound negative to someone who's not already privy to this information. Go and do your research. It's out there. The world could be a much better place if people were growing their own food or getting it locally, or at minimum just shopping for organic food. So, but anyways, boom. The secret to why you feel differently towards different people, towards different children, why parents treat different children differently. Nothing wrong with it. It's just straight up. It's just who they are, who you are, and it's an energy, it's a yoga, it's a dynamic. Okay? Although you just be careful. Don't go traumatizing one, but if you feel drawn to, it's okay a little bit. But I wanted to talk about something that was palatable and everyone can grasp. So with that, I leave you. Namaste. Peace out.